Maia Letitia Fitness. In today's episode, we're going to be going through functional movement patterns. So I'm a big proponent of strength training, and we should definitely be including that several times a week into our workout routines. But how do we go about doing that? So often we look at, including different body parts or different muscle groups, but we can look at this in a little bit more of a broader sense in terms of functional movement patterns. And there's about 6, maybe 7 that we can really include, and that's going to really cover so many different exercises to choose from, and we can pick and choose from those each week to really incorporate into our routines and workouts and really create a well-balanced routine. So like I said, there's about 6, 7 that we can count. So we're going to go through them today. So the first one is a squat pattern. The second one is a hinge pattern. Third is a lunge pattern. The fourth one is a pushing pattern. Fifth is pulling. And 6th is a carry. And the 7th one, which we can throw in there too, is twisting. So if we choose exercises from all of these different kinds of movement patterns, like I said, we're gonna be able to create a really great, well-balanced strength training program. And you're gonna make sure that you're hitting all those separate muscle groups by incorporating from all these different movement patterns. All right, so we're gonna go through each one and break it down. All right, so functional movement pattern number 1 is the squat. So we need this pattern for so many things in our day-to-day life. The number of times we're getting up and down out of a chair, sitting often on the toilet, things like that, we need to be able to maneuver ourselves up and down toward the floor. So how do we do this? This is a squat pattern. So when we think of squats, there's lots of different exercises that we can do to do squats, right? There's a body weight squat, we can add dumbbells, we can add a barbell, we can hold a kettlebell. There's all sorts of varieties. There's so many different options, but we're gonna just cover how to do the basic squat for today. So what we're going to do is we wanna think about having our feet about hip distance apart, or shoulder distance apart rather, and just gently, angled kind of outward to what feels comfortable and natural. So when we start off with our squat, we're going to think about pushing our butt back behind us and then dropping our butt down toward the floor. So my knees are tracking over top of my second toe of my foot, and then I'm gonna drive through my feet and squeeze my legs and glutes to come back up. So I'm gonna do that from the side here. So I'm thinking about pushing my hips back, bending those knees, dropping my butt down toward the floor. My chest is staying up, so I'm not tipped over this way. And then I'm driving through my feet, squeezing my legs and my glutes to come back up. Now the careful thing we want to watch for is that those knees, like I said, are tracking with the toes. So we don't want them caving in, we don't want them driving outward, we want to make sure that they're keeping that nice straight position. So a good progression of this is to add a dumbbell, in which case we can add here and do a goblet squat. So our form remains the same, but now we're adding some weight to this to make it a little more challenging. All right, so give this squat a go. All right, the second functional movement pattern that we talked about is the hinge pattern. So this one is so functional and so great for day-to-day life because this involves bending over. But what we want to be doing is using our hips to do that, not our back. So this is a great exercise to help strengthen the back of our body through our back extensors all the way through glutes and hamstrings as well. So kind of that whole posterior chain is what we're working here. And this is really helpful when we have to go and bend over to pick something up, reach for something and grab something. It's the hinge pattern that we're working. So we're going to cover how to do that and how to do it properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand hip distance apart, nice and comfortable with the feet here. And the movement initiates from the hips here. So we're going to drive the butt back behind you towards the wall back there. And I'm hinging forward. My knees are going to soften just so that I can get into a position just below my knees here. So my arms are just reaching toward the floor. Now here, the important thing is my chest is still up. I'm looking forward. My back is nice and flat. So I haven't rounded out. I'm keeping that nice stable position here. And then I'm going to drive through my heels, squeeze my glutes to come back up to neutral. So let's do that again. I'm going to hinge forward. I'm driving the hips back behind me. My hands are sliding down my legs just below my knees. My weight's through my heels here so I can feel the tension through my hamstrings and glutes. And then I squeeze my glutes as I come back up to standing. And the important thing here is that we're coming back up to straight. We're not coming into a hyperextended position here. I'm just coming back up to neutral. So it's good to practice this movement on its own first and get really comfortable with that pattern. And then we can add some weight to it. So again, if I take some dumbbells, I'm going to do that same movement, but now I've added a little bit more resistance. Squeeze the glutes. So nice hinge and squeeze the glutes. Okay, now this exercise, there's a lot of variations and different ones we can do. So we've got dumbbells, we could do barbells, we could use a kettlebell again. And then of course there's single leg options, all sorts of things. And then also another hinge pattern is a hip thrust. So that is another great exercise to be including, and that is doing that hip hinging movement as well, but in kind of a different position. We're supported differently. So we'll be covering that in another video. Okay, the next movement pattern is the lunge. So a lunge is great for a lot of reasons. It's starting to take one leg over the other, right? So it's starting to do a little bit more single-sided things, and this is where we can tend to find weaknesses from one side to another. When we're doing things with both double legs, so a squat with two legs, often we don't notice if one side might be compensating for the other. So it's helpful to, when we're doing lunges, we can start to notice, okay, are there some changes happening? Is one side caving, or is it weaker than the other? That kind of thing. So it's great to be incorporating single leg exercises as well. So our basic lunge that we're going to cover is just actually an alternating lunge to start. So what we're going to do is we're going to step forward, lunging down toward the floor, and then we're pushing back to our starting position. Now we can repeat on one leg, or we can alternate sides and do that. So I'm going to turn to the side so you can see that again. So I'm stepping forward, lunging down toward the floor. So my weight's a little bit forward over this front leg. This leg's coming down toward the floor. And then I'm pushing back up to center. So same thing other side, coming down. My knee again is tracking with that toe. It's not coming way forward, but it's in line. And I'm wading through my midfoot and heel here, and then pushing back up to center. So this is a great lunge to begin with. It's, just one side at a time. You're pushing back and forth, helps with balance, and it's going to be challenging for those legs. So lots of lunge alternatives and variations, of course. We can take it to walking lunges. We can do all one side at a time. There's side lunges. There's split squats that we can just do. And then obviously adding weights and resistance is going to make this more challenging as well. All right, so the next movement pattern is going to be a push pattern. So when we tend to think about pushing, we often think about the push-up, and this is a great exercise to begin with. There's a lot of variations here. So we can do dumbbell chest presses, we can do cable presses, all sorts of things like that. Those are all horizontal push movements. So the push actually contains two different ones. It contains horizontal movements where we're pushing forward this way, but it also contains vertical push movements where we press overhead. So we're pressing up above us. So any of those are going to count as the push movement pattern. So we're going to cover the push-up first today. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin with a regular push-up. So what we want to do is we're going to have our hands on the floor, and we're going to have them just slightly outside of our body, and we're onto our toes. Core is pulled in nice and tight here. Now, as I lower down toward the floor, my goal is to get my chest to the floor, but not have my stomach sinking down toward the floor. So my elbows are going to be about 45 degrees out from my body. So I'm going to come down and then push nice straight back up. So down and push straight back up. Now, of course, we can always do this from the knees as well. So if you're beginning with the push-up or can't get very far down with a full push-up, I would start from the knees and lower down, push back up. Your goal is the same positioning here. Another option you can do with these is doing them on an incline. So maybe against a bar at the gym on the rack, or against a bench or a table or something like that, just to take a little bit of that pressure off. So the more horizontal we become, the harder it becomes there. All right, so that is our horizontal pushing motion. Okay, so the next movement pattern is pulling. So just like pushing, there's two variations on this. There's horizontal pulling as well as vertical pulling. So we need to make sure that we're incorporating exercises from both versions. So we're going to cover the horizontal pulling today. And basically all of the pulling movements are going to be working our muscles in our back. So this is to help strengthen the back muscles, which helps with posture, which helps with overall body strength, right? When we're able to lift and carry things well with good posture, that's super important in helping prevent back pain and discomfort. So we're going to work on a band row today, which is a great starting exercise to do for the horizontal pull. So what we're going to do, I've got a band attached here in front of me. My knees are going to be soft, my core tight. And the important thing with the rowing here is that we're initiating that movement from those shoulder blades. So I'm squeezing my shoulder blades back, I'm getting a retraction, and then I'm pulling back with the band. Nice control back out, and then nice squeeze back with the shoulder blades, and then squeeze with the band. All right, so important here that we don't end up kind of just pulling with the arms and not actually getting that retraction happening through the back. So it's important we get that nice retraction first and then squeeze as we do that movement. Now this can be done obviously lots of different ways with a cable. We could do it with dumbbells in a bent over position, with barbells, all sorts of things, but that's kind of the rowing pattern. That's one of the great ones we want to be including for that horizontal pull. The vertical pull is going to be something more like a lat pull down, which we'll cover different in another video. The last one is the carry movement pattern, and this one is just as it sounds, it's carrying something. So we tend to do double arm carries. It can be a single-sided one as well, but what these are, you're not going to feel like a huge necessarily burn with this as you would if you're doing squats or you're doing a whole bunch of rows or lat pulls, but it incorporates a lot of our body and a lot of muscle groups to do the carry. And obviously the heavier we go and the more we challenge ourselves as we get stronger, the more that whole body has to work to help you and hold and keep stable and all of that stuff. So what we're going to show you first today is a farmer carry. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do this with 2 dumbbells. So I'm going to hold dumbbells here, and all it is holding those dumbbells. I'm thinking about being in a good posture position. So my core is pulled in, my shoulders are set down and back, so I'm not in a bad posture, right? We want to make sure that we're doing this in a good posture position. And then all I'm doing is walking a certain distance, turning around, walking back, all right? And the thing with this is that everything is working in my body here to hold this position strong. So my grip is having to work, my forearms, my shoulders, my back, my abs, my legs to carry me there and back. So you can kind of choose different distances to challenge yourself, different weights. And then, like I said, you can always progress this by going to a single arm carry, right? So one side is having to work a little bit harder. We have to counterbalance. So there's a lot of great options with this. And it's a really great functional exercise to be including. If you think about how often we have to carry things, bags of groceries, suitcases, all that kind of stuff, this is a really, really great functional pattern to work. Okay, and the last one, or the bonus one, is going to be a rotation movement pattern. So this one is really great because we do a lot of rotation and anti-rotation actually throughout our day as well. So anything that we're having to turn and grab something, think of a lot of sports like tennis, baseball, golf, all that kind of stuff. We're all doing rotational movements here. Swimming, right? Even running, we do have rotation through our trunk that's happening. So we want to work on those rotational muscles as well. Now there's lots of options we can do here. A really great one to begin with is a cable rotation or a band rotation. So I've got the band hooked up here to the side, and what I'm going to do, I'm having a nice stable stance. My knees are soft, my abs are tight, and I'm going to rotate and turn on that back toe. So I'm going to pivot on that back toe as I pull the band across. So I'm coming across, my core is staying nice and tight here, and I'm getting a nice squeeze as I come through. So the important thing is I'm not just doing this, right? I'm getting that rotation to come through that back hip as well and toe. So nice control and back to center. So this is a great exercise, like I said, to work those rotational muscles, works our core, and kind of puts the whole thing together, right? Because like I said, there's lots of movement patterns we do in our day where we're reaching and turning and grabbing things and putting things away and doing all that kind of stuff. So the more we can put that together with the whole body, the better. All right, so some other exercises we can do with this would be a wood chop with a dumbbell. You can work different directions of those. Sitting, you can even do, like, think about rotational sitting exercises like that, like a Russian twist, a V-sit twist, all kinds of different things. Even planking, rolling into a side plank, back to a front plank. So all those types of exercises, and we'll hit on more of those later. Okay, so that concludes our information about the functional movement patterns. Now we're going to go through more of these in detail in various videos going forward, so make sure to stay tuned for those, and we'll learn all about different exercises that are going to fit into each of those categories in more depth. We're going to go through that. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, if you're starting to put together some workouts, pick 6 to 8 different exercises to make a workout and choose from those different functional movement patterns to start. And this is going to help you get a well-rounded workout. you're gonna be able to do that for a few days of the week, and you're gonna be incorporating different exercises, so it's gonna help you balance that out, working different muscle groups throughout your week. All right, if you have more questions about programming or need help with workouts, make sure you comment below this video or send me an email, and I'd be happy to connect with you and help you get set up on a program. Until next time, I hope you guys stay fit and have a great week.